And I'm back. It's J.E. Turcott again. I am still here. In fact, only about 5 seconds have elapsed since the end of the last episode. But hey, this way I can go to 8 o'clock and 8:05 and know exactly what I'm up to. As far as the length of my episodes goes, holy cow. This is unreasonable. But this is how I keep funding books. I want all this sand. I hate leaving anything behind. Fortune 1. I know somebody who would love to have that. And it's not Hugo Chavez. Oh, what am I going to give up for this? I suppose I can make flint and steel anytime I want. In fact, I can get most of this again, but still. It's not that I'm a hoarder exactly, but... Oh. My sprinting skills leave quite a few things to be desired. Right, so as I was heading off... Granted, nobody will be watching this series for some time. And so there's no one to ask questions. I realize that's a thing. Perfectly happy to answer questions. I'm not a particularly secretive person. I know a lot of people like to protect their online or their personalities from being connected to their online persona. I don't care. Personally, I'm not going to give you my credit card number or anything like that. Oh, I love it when that happens, even though it shouldn't. Sometimes you get an evil preview of what's possible. Anyways. Hello, pigs. I should not be in the forest because I won't be able to see for crap. But yeah. I am getting older now. I actually don't remember how old I am. Mid-30s, anyways. I live on the East Coast. DC specifically. Don't particularly like it because I am from Maine. And though Maine is in financial distress and has been for some time, it is still a gorgeous place with hardworking people, which are something of a rarity. I realize everybody thinks they're hardworking, and probably most of them are right, but Maine just has that reputation, and it's well earned. Do you hear that? Was that the water? Oh well. But that's where I'm from. Spent most of my life there. Telecommuted to my developing job for years and years and years. And then they stopped doing that. Primarily because a handful of the other telecommuters were not living up to their responsibilities quite as well as I was. So I'm paying the price. I suppose this area is not so bad. It is kind of nice not having a winter that lasts half the year. But then again, as a telecommuter, I never really had to deal with winter. I could just stay indoors. So I didn't care that much. And the rest of the year makes up for it. Well, that's not true. Maine has a few seasons. They are a very brief summer, which is hot and humid. I suppose, relatively speaking, but for natives, it feels very hot and very humid. You have to understand, we have ponds and lakes everywhere. Hundreds, if not thousands of them. You can't walk 5 feet down the street without running into or falling over into another pond. So there's a lot of water that will be in the air whenever it gets too hot. So it's naturally going to be humid. We don't have dry heat. But yeah, that's a short period of the year. After which we have another short, but, well, I won't say that. We have a decently length autumn that lasts probably right into December most years. I actually, when I went to high school, I would walk the 3 miles to school, uphill all 3 ways. Whoa. They're laughing. Oh, hello. Don't laugh at me. Move. Thank you. Oh, sure. Complicate matters. But yeah, it would stay relatively warm right into December. And it is a very nice season. Winter lasts quite too long, starts about January and heads into April. It can be quite frigid, deep snow. I'm sure many of you know the drill, coming from places that probably have it even worse. But then we have what is actually mud season after winter. You can't really call it spring. It is mud season. Mud and bug season. But again, headed alt. Enjkoi. See, I'm sort of doubling back on myself now. Okay. You are precarious, good tree. So yeah, that's where I'm from. And it's not like here. Also, people here are kind of mean. Or at least completely oblivious to each other's needs in ways that I am not accustomed to. And I understand that that could come of a life having been lived in an area that is congested, where you have to jostle for any amount of room. You become aggressively defensive, if that makes any sense. So, anyways, I'm not accustomed to that, and I refuse to succumb to the habit. Ever since coming down here, I gave up my car, which I bought when I was in upstate New York, by way of Corning, after having been moved by business the first time away from me. After settling in, I got myself a Mini Cooper, which I was quite fond of, but could not justify once I moved down here, because I didn't need a car, because it was so much more expensive down here, and because the county of Arlington was taxing vehicles, at least in ways that I have not been taxed on vehicles before. And I actually understand and don't condemn that, because if you have a small area with lots of cars, you need to do what you can, A, to pay for all the wear and tear caused by those cars, but also to do what they did with me and encourage people to forego the car if possible. It works for me. I miss the car on a personal basis, but not on a practical basis. The thing is, I do not want to go straight east. And I don't want to spend the entire episode on the water. See, I choose large biomes. I apologize for this. Or maybe I don't. Plus, I don't have room. I suppose I do. I'm going to go on a boat. I'm sorry. Whoa. I don't want to. I want to give caffeine first base. Actually, she wouldn't mind if I was out there at all. But I am quite attached to my constructions, and she is to hers, so I wouldn't want to mess with it too much. Later on, as we figure out what we're doing, holy lag, we will build Nether networks, Nether roads, Nether rail, link each other's places up, and back to the central location eventually. But we haven't gotten that far. So, yeah, that's a little bit about me. I am a developer. Have been since the middle of college. And I will not rant about that because I could. But I've been doing this for 15 years. Anyways. Hello, boat. Oof. You know what? How many was that? That was 20, wasn't it? Oh, punk. Oh, I bet they don't stack. What am I going to do with this? I suppose I don't need shears right now either. They're pretty cheap. Alright. Oh, I should have made a map at some point. Oh well. I won't be spending any time in the middle here. So where am I going? That's east. This is north. Alright. Off we go. Maybe I'll even record a third episode. I'm headed out in the morning, but all I have to do is pack something. I'll see. I could have walked across that. Well, no. That would have annoyed everybody. Let's see if I can go around. But yeah, I'm a web developer primarily. Or started out largely front-end graphics, HTML. Server-side includes stuff like that. And grew from there. More and more back-end needs were needed by the organization I work for, and I picked them up oftentimes because there was no one else to do it, and because it was within my capacity to do so. I had been programming since I was 6 years old with a Color Computer 3. I discovered that if you printed a buffer of pixels, or a bunch of pixels to the buffer that were one or more longer than the actual width of the screen, it would wrap around and create, if you just looped, it would create what looked like tornadoes flying across the screen. And this was good for a 6-year-old, so I just kept going from there. I had a stage where I made a really, really bad side scroller using BASIC, and it was slow, but everything was back then. I'm going to give up and go on land here. And then I got something called Pavre, which allowed me to program visuals. I would describe the universe in oh, that's because I don't have the boat. Okay. I describe it in shapes. Here's a sphere. Oh, hello. And the sphere is I don't know, has a cylinder carved out of the center of it, so now it's more of a bead. Or maybe there's a super flat cylinder with a super flat cylinder cut out of the center, which makes rings, and now you've got a ringed planet, perhaps. And you could describe textures, and you could put a clock variable in this and move things around by basing your equations on this one variable. So, it's basically time. So you could animate stuff, and I did that. And when I first started doing it, a single frame could take hours to render. And this is stuff that now could be done in a split second by modern computers. Though actual ray tracing, which is this stuff is called, is still not done in games. There's stuff that tries to come close or simulate ray tracing, but it is extremely calculation intensive stuff, and the graphics card are not doing it yet. If they ever do, I don't even know. But that was the stage for a while until I went off to work and kind of lost track of it. Went off, and then computers stopped supporting that particular piece of software. I still want it. 3.6 can be downloaded now, but I'm on a Mac these days, and while it is supposedly for the Mac, or a version of it doesn't actually function. Oh, I left behind my workstation too. Shoot. I do get easily distracted, I'm sorry. So, yes. I went on to develop up. I actually went to college with the expectation that I would learn how to make computer games. And this was a bit of a mistake. I still would like to do that. People my age almost never do this anymore. Most people will do it they start out young and they burn out young because it's a brutal industry. It doesn't have to be, but it is. But I chafed under their very dry program of computer science, which actually is not, I mean, it's not the best in the world up at UMaine, but it is respected because it has some teachers in it who are themselves quite brutal, including this guy named Markowski, who feels bad if any more than 2 of his students in any given class passes each semester. But once they do, they're quite good. So that's kind of the point. But yeah, I wasn't interested in that. I was too young to appreciate how that stuff would be useful down the road. I just wanted to learn games. I wanted to do artistic, creative stuff on the spot. They gave me a hard time financially, so this became an excuse to have a rift. And things went from there. It didn't matter at a certain point because I was already doing this as a career before I parted ways with these people. And somehow I managed to rant in spite of not wanting to. Well, let's try this. I'm sorry if this is boring, but I do need to find a location I will actually be happy with. In fact, in a few more minutes I'll close the episode, and then I'll continue on for a while and allow the file to save. And when it's done, it'll probably take 20 minutes just to save the stupid file to disk. I will continue, and then I'll start another episode. From there, I'll let that... I don't know if I want to force myself to have decided upon a location by the end of that episode, but I have to pick sometime, and there's always greener pastures, right? So, speaking of greener, yeah, I went on to web develop and have become reasonably good at it, as one would hope after doing it for 15 years. I mean, I was doing cheesy stuff when I first started, but then again, that's all there was. And now I am the master, using the term loosely, of all our intricate and massive data structures at this political organization I work at, and will not name because I want to retain the right to disagree with them about a thing or two every once in a while without implicating them. Or, well, that's not the right word. They're not doing anything wrong, but we have lively discussions in the developing room on this sort of stuff, and they do not discourage it, which is good. But then again, I don't want my opinions to rub off on them or theirs on me, is what I'm saying. So, I work for them. I will not say who. You could probably find out really easy. It's not important even if you did. Point being, we have large databases. We have multi-language platforms and in-house homebrewed frameworks, which are quite legacy in many parts and yet reasonably advanced, especially for the time they were written, which was 10 to 12 years ago, slightly before I came on, but now they are my responsibility, and I'm like the only person. Why does that happen? Anybody else being driven nuts by that? I'm the only one there who has a complete understanding of that system. However, we are also moving to new systems, which I am not being exposed to. I'm in no danger of losing my job for sure, but it is a little weird having areas of the system that I am not thoroughly familiar with. But yeah, I mean, I do Perl, I do Python. I avoid the PHP aspect for no reason in particular. What do I do? I suppose I could end the episode and swim. I don't mind boring myself. I wish I could do it on auto somehow. But, yeah, that's me, a little bit, in a rambly kind of way. So I will wrap the episode up here, and hope everybody has a good night, and hopefully soon people will notice this and start watching and not be completely annoyed by it. And, Well, there it is.